Hey everyone, it's Emily and I'm finally getting around to filming my favorite books of 2021. These are books that I read in 2021, not necessarily published in 2021. And also the lighting is not going to be the greatest, but we're working with what we got. And I do want to make a couple of notes. One, I actually read all of these books on audio. I'll make a separate video about books that didn't quite make this list but were standout audio experiences, but I will note the standout audio experiences from this list as well. I love audiobooks. I appreciate narrators so much, so I want to shout out the audio experience in this list as well. And also, second note is that these are in the order I read them throughout the year. I cannot imagine how I would possibly compare the books on this list that are across a bunch of different genres and for different age ranges. I don't know. So these are in the order that I read them throughout the year. And with that, let's just jump right into the list. The first is actually the first book I read in 2020, and that is The Nightingale, or 2021, not 2020. It's The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And this is a World War II historical fiction. You follow two sisters who have very different paths throughout the war. They're in Paris during the occupation. One has a family and is trying to keep her head down. The other joins the rebellion. And they come to understand and appreciate some things about how the other is approaching how to respond to the war, but it's ultimately a tale of sisters and their love. And I just thought the writing was beautiful. I thought it was super emotional, and I was feeling everything that I think Kristen Hanna wanted me to. And yeah, so I absolutely loved it. I'm gonna try to be super snappy with these because I've got 15 books to go through. But the next book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was a standout audio experience. I remember really loving the narrator, who was Fraser Douglas, narrated this one, and this is the story of Achilles and Patroclus from Patroclus's perspective. And you follow him growing up, you follow him meeting Achilles, them falling in love, going through the Trojan War, and ultimately just the writing was stunning, absolutely stunning, and just the love felt so real. And yeah, this one really tugged at my heartstrings as well. And yeah, as I said, standout writing, very emotional. It really stuck with me, so would highly recommend. The next book on this list is a bit of a chunker, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. And this one is super fun, adult political high fantasy. You follow different parts of this world and a huge cast of characters. Different parts of this world have a very different relationship to magic and to dragons, but they ultimately need to band together in order to stop the threat of the Nameless One. And so you follow different parts of this world, and I love the characters. The world is super fascinating. The politics was super fascinating, and I loved it. I really loved this one. So if you like political high fantasies with huge casts of characters, and it's a standalone, although I think she's writing a companion book in this world, it is a standalone. So if you're looking, granted a chunky one, but if you're looking for a standalone like that, can't recommend enough. The next one I'm going to talk about is Winterkeep by Kristen Kishore. This is the fourth book in the Graceling Realm series. You follow Bitter Blue after the events of the book Bitter Blue, and you also follow a new character named Levisa who lives in Winterkeep. And there are some weird things going on as far as trade, and so Bitter Blue is going to investigate and figure out what's going on. Just some other mysterious things are happening, and she wants to figure it out. And Levisa is kind of in the midst of a political family, and so she's at the center of all this, or her family is, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. It's fabulous. There are magical foxes involved. It was just a delight. I love Kristen Kishore's writing. I love this world so much. I love these characters. It's a good mix of character work and good pacing and action throughout. I absolutely love this series. The next one I want to talk about is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This was also a delightful audio experience, minus his narration of some female voices, but narrated by Joe Jameson. And this is a slight enemies to lovers. The two at the center of this had met before and didn't really get off on the best first impression, or get off on the right foot at first, so to speak. But for reasons, they agree to fake date. And so it's a mix of fake dating and, you know, slight enemies to lovers. And I love these two so much. I don't necessarily want to go fully into the synopsis or the setup, but it deals with some work situations and some life situations that they have that make them agree to fake date. And they fall in love in the process, and just the way that they learn to communicate with each other and just stick by each other and care for each other is just absolutely wonderful. So I really, really love this one. So the next set of books, really, I'm counting this as one, and that is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this was also a standout audio experience. I listened to the Rob Inglis audiobooks. I do also want to listen to Andy Serkis's narration, and I might do that next time I reread these. Or when I first reread them, this was my first read through these books, and I just got sucked into this world. I think a lot of people know what this series is about. You know, our main character Frodo needs to take this ring back to where it was created, back to Mordor, in order to destroy it because it has too much power. And it's a very interesting writing style, super interesting characters, and just, again, the world building. Like, I just got sucked into this world and being there with the characters and hanging out with them. It's a very slow story, but if you like slow, character-driven stories about interesting worlds, and you like his very unique writing style, then I think you'll really, really come to love these. The next two books are also kind of together, but I'm just going to hold up one of them, and that is Ship of Magic, and the second one is The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. These are the first two books in the Live Ship Traders series, which is the second series in her overall Realm of the Elderling world. Again, I'll be super brief. It involves pirates, it involves magical ships that gain some sentience once 3 generations of a family die on its decks. And you follow families who control these magical ships, you follow the politics there, you follow pirates, you know, trying to do what pirates do, I guess. I don't know, but the pirates are super interesting characters. It's very slow, character-driven work, classic Robin Hobb. I love this series so much. It is a cast of characters too, unlike the first series in this world. But you follow a whole cast of characters throughout this part of the world on sea and in some of these port towns. And I love it. I love it so much. Again, fascinating characters and just interesting politics. The world is just so cool and just so unique, and I love it. I love it. The next one is The Galaxy and the Ground Within, and this is by Becky Chambers, of course. And this was also a standout audio experience for me. Rachel Dulude is just fantastic and just absolute perfection for the Wayfarer series. I think she gets Becky Chambers' vibe. Like, she just gets the vibe. Becky Chambers' writing really feels like home, and I think when you combine that with Rachel's narration, it's magic. It's magic. It's just calming, very soft sci-fi that follows characters in this world and just their daily life. In this one, literally, there's barely a plot. Literally, all that happens is there are a group of people on this planet, and this planet is not necessarily a destination in and of itself. For the most part, it's a place where you stop on your way to other destinations. And so all of our characters have the intention of dropping by and then quickly leaving, but they are all stuck there. And they help each other out, they help each other get through this period of them being stuck on the surface of this planet, and learn about each other, and it's delightful. The characters are just absolutely fascinating. The commentary that she's able to weave in such a natural way is just amazing. I'm a huge fan. I also love everything that she's written. You will note that the novella that she also published last year is not on this list, and that is because it was the first book I read in 2022, so that's why it's not on this list. I'll talk about that next year. So the next one I want to talk about is Date Me Bryson Keller, and this is by Kevin Van Wy. This one was just heartwarming and precious and really surprised me with how much I love it. It's a fake dating situation. It's actually really a kind of bet situation. So Bryson Keller will date the first person who asks him out on Monday morning at school, and for reasons, Kai is the first person to ask him out Monday morning, and he's like, sure, no one said that it had to be a woman who asked me out, like, let's do this. So they fake date for the week and then actually fall for each other, and their relationship is so precious, so precious. They stick by each other and they help each other through a really tough situation or a set of situations in their personal life, including forced coming out as part of the conversation here. Very heavy emphasis on coming out, kind of the ramifications of that, so that's something to keep in mind. But just their dynamic is just absolutely precious, and just, it was so heartwarming that it really stuck with me. The next one is Illuminati by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This was another standout audio experience. My recommendation personally is to listen to the audiobook while reading the physical book. So I'll actually hold up the physical book here. I have it, so I can just go ahead and hold it up. It's a mixed media format, so you get images, you get schematics, you get different chats, like chat logs, you get emails, you get surveillance video, that's kind of described on page for you. So you get a bunch of stuff, and it's told in multimedia format throughout the entire thing. It's not a traditional narrative, and essentially follows a planet that is attacked. Our main characters, there are some other characters involved too. Our main characters escape from this planet after the attack, but they escape on 2 different ships. So they're trying to keep in touch with each other and figure out what's going on, and the people who attack their planet are chasing them, and so they're trying to figure out what's going on and how to survive. But I'll leave it there. But I thought it would be just kind of a cool, interesting story and an interesting way of telling the story. I was sucked in completely, and I didn't expect to be so engrossed in this plot and so invested in the characters. It really surprised me, and just, again, really stood out to me as just a unique and very fun reading experience. So would highly recommend if that sounds interesting. Also, the next one I want to talk about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was another standout audio experience. Ray Porter did an amazing job narrating this one. There are a few elements with the audiobook that also were super cool. I don't want to talk about it because those elements, I would need to kind of talk about a spoiler to talk about them, but fantastic audiobook. He really got the humor, the timing, the intonation, really got into the head of this character. So this one follows Ryland Grace. He wakes up in a spaceship. His crewmates are dead. He has no memory of what's going on. He remembers that he was on some sort of important Earth-saving mission, but he doesn't remember what it is. As his memories come back to him, you also flash back to why he was on this mission, why he was selected for it, and his work with this project to save Earth that is Project Hail Mary. And oh my god, I thought the going back and forth in time was incredibly effective. I love the humor in this. I absolutely adored the characters, and I ultimately thought the science was integrated in a really cool way, but in my opinion wasn't done in a way that was too in your face or would distract from enjoying the story if you weren't really following all of the details of the science. In my opinion, some people disagree, but I had such a fun time with this one. It was heartwarming, it was surprising. I really liked the direction that it took. I loved it. I loved it from start to finish, and would highly recommend the audiobook, as I said. The next one I want to talk about is The Sword of Kayan by M.L. Wong, and this one follows a community that is at the forefront of protecting their larger nation, and so a lot of them are trained in combat. You follow Mizaki, who is a mother. You also follow her son. Her son is starting to question some things that the government is saying after he meets a friend who's kind of from the outside. And Misaki herself is also from a different part of this world. And so she also kind of understands why he's questioning things. And she doesn't have a great relationship with her husband. It was kind of an arranged marriage, but she's basically told to sit down and be a wife and a mom and don't get involved with anything else. But she really is trying to figure out how to protect her family, how to protect her community, given that she can't really trust some information that's coming from the government. And so you follow a super interesting, again, good mix of character work, very good character work, with some action and some really just interesting politics and plot happening as there are different political maneuverings and different attacks and them trying to figure out what's going on. I loved it. It was very emotional, it was interesting, it was action-packed, but again, also just very deep and meaningful with interesting conversations and character growth. So much character growth. Like, it's incredible. Incredible. The next one I want to talk about is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. Another standout audio experience. January Lavoie is the queen of narration. She can do, and I mentioned her before in favorite audiobook videos, but she can do so many different voices. It's incredible. I don't know how she does it. And I think this one actually made it to my favorites of the year, and not just one of my favorite audiobooks, because I think this really, really takes off, the story kind of really takes off in an interesting way here. You kind of combine the first book where you meet some of these diviners, it's the third book in the Diviners series, and you meet some of the diviners in the first book and get to understand their magic, and they solve a murder mystery. The second one, you're introduced to another set of characters and you realize where the story is going to go and how the world is going to open up. And it really opens up in this third one, and you kind of combine both of these sets of characters and their magic, and they realize that the balance between the world of the living and the world of the dead is not what it should be, and they need to right that balance. The themes that she's able to cover in here, the characters are so interesting. The writing is absolutely gorgeous, not flowery, but just I love the writing. And again, just she's able to incorporate so many themes. It's set in the 1920s in New York, and she talks a lot about the racism at the time. Ableism is also covered. She covers so many things in this, and I think very well. And it's just such a fascinating story. It's so creepy. It is so creepy, perfect for Halloween. And she really draws on horror to talk about racism. And it's so cool. It's so cool. It's one of my favorites in the series. It is my favorite in the series so far, I think. The first one, is it the first one or this one? I don't know. Absolutely loved it. The next book I want to talk about is Dune by Frank Herbert, and I'm very excited to continue on with this series. This, of course, follows the Atreides family as they are told to go to Dune to take over the overseeing of the production of this spice that is only produced on Arrakis or Dune. And they encounter a lot of politics along the way, not just with the native people of this planet, but also the house is what it's called, kind of the family that was in control of Dune before them, that they've essentially replaced. And they need to figure out whether or not the Emperor is really on their side, or whether they're being targeted through being told to move to Dune. So they need to navigate this politics, and it's fascinating. The themes in here, again, super fascinating, very thought-provoking, an interesting audio experience. It's a good chunk of it's narrated by one person, but there's also other people brought in for different parts of it, for full cast sections of it. So very interesting audio experience. And it took me a while to get into. It's very dense, but fascinating. And again, I was just intrigued. I think that's the main word that I would use to describe this, is just intriguing. So I had a lot of fun with that one. The final book that I want to talk about is another romance, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Another standout audio experience. I thought that Callie Dalton did an absolutely phenomenal job narrating this. She was just delightful. She was just delightful. And again, I thought she really captured the humor. I love the humor in this one. It's another fake dating setup, and it's also a STEM. Our main characters are both scientists, and so it's a STEM romance as well. And I'm not going to talk too much about the setup, but again, the main trope is fake dating. There's also Grump Sunshine in this, and there's also, I do want to mention that, so she talks about our main character Olive here talks about her experiences in academia as a woman, and there are some potentially triggering scenes at a conference that deal with sexual harassment. So just want to note that. But overall, relatively lighter toned book with some serious themes in it that come to the surface at different times in the story. But super fun romance. I just thought their dynamic was very entertaining, and she really was just trying to bring him along, and he just kind of fell into her orbit. And I thought their dynamic was just, again, so much fun. The banter was super witty. I loved the science in this and incorporating her road in academia, and I loved it. And I am very excited for anything else that Ali Hazelwood writes. So that is my list of my top 15 books that I read in 2021. A huge variety of things, which I really like, that I can enjoy so many different kinds of books and they still make it to my favorites of the year. So definitely wanting to continue reading across genres and age ranges, and hope that continues over the coming years, and that favorites can come from all sorts of places for me. So let me know what you think about these books. Let me know if you've read any of these and really enjoyed any of these, or if you have different opinions on any of these books. I would love to hear it. I of course will leave my Twitter and Instagram linked down below. I will also leave more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. Let me know some of your favorites from this year as well, and of course subscribe for more bookish content, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.